The secret chamber of the Galactic Council's lesser-used third basement wasn't exactly the most impressive venue for plotting the downfall of humanity. Ambassador Crix of the Zentari Confederation drummed his 6 fingers on the scratched metal table, wondering if the maintenance staff ever bothered cleaning down here. The air recyclers wheezed like they hadn't been serviced since the council building's construction, and the lighting flickered in a way that would have been dramatic if it wasn't so obviously in need of repair. "This meeting of the Committee for Human Economic Adjustment is now in session," announced High Commissioner Pax Ree, her bioluminescent antennae pulsing with barely contained excitement. She was technically a mid-level trade representative, but no one contested her self-appointed title. Not when they were all gathered here like a bunch of conspiracy theorists in their parents' basement. Around the table sat representatives from 12 different species, each nursing their own grudge against Earth's meteoric rise in the galactic economy. There was Trade Minister Blocks, whose crystal mining operations had tanked after humans introduced their superior synthetic diamonds. Security Chief Venner, still bitter about humans winning the contract to protect merchant ships with their, quote, absurdly primitive but inexplicably effective weapons. And of course Professor Nixis, whose definitive work on xenobiology had to be completely rewritten after first contact, proved humans could survive things that should, by all accounts, have killed them instantly. "Our intelligence," Pax Ree continued, projecting a hologram of Earth's most prestigious wineries, indicates that the humans are about to corner yet another luxury market. Their fermented grape juice has become the talk of the galactic core. "Grape juice?" scoffed Blocks, his crystalline form reflecting the hologram's light. "That's what all this fuss is about." "Grape juice that sells for more than refined quantum crystals," Venner pointed out, her scales shifting from green to an annoyed orange. "The humans have somehow convinced half the galaxy that their drinks are worth a small fortune." Pax Ree's antennae curved into what passed for a smile among her species. "Which is exactly why we're going to help them improve their recipe." The hologram shifted to display a complex molecular structure rotating slowly in the air. "This, my fellow committee members, is a compound that's completely harmless to 99% of known species. But when combined with ethanol—" She paused for dramatic effect, though the flickering lights somewhat ruined the moment. "It creates an extremely potent neurotoxin." Professor Nixis raised one of his eye stalks. "And you're certain this will work?" "Absolutely," Pax Ree declared. "We'll introduce it into their most prestigious wine exports right before the Galactic Cooperation Summit. Imagine, the humans' precious wines turning into poison right as they're serving it to the galaxy's most influential beings. Their reputation will be ruined, their wine industry will collapse, and best of all—" Her antennae curled with satisfaction. "They'll never be able to prove it wasn't just their own incompetence." The committee members exchanged glances, mandibles clicking and appendages twitching with anticipation. None of them noticed the small cleaning drone in the corner, its ancient servos whirring as it continued its predetermined path, recording everything as part of its standard maintenance protocol. The loading docks of the Terra Prime vineyards on a cloudy Tuesday morning proved to be the perfect spot for what Venner insisted on calling Operation Wine and Dine. Security Chief Venner, Trade Minister Blocks, and Professor Nixis had volunteered for the ground team, though volunteered might have been a stretch. They'd drawn the shortest tentacles in what Pax Ree had called a completely random selection process. "Explain to me again," Blocks whispered from inside his environmental suit, which made him look like a walking disco ball, "why we're doing this at 4 a.m. "Because," Venner hissed, her scales shifting to match the pre-dawn shadows, "this is when they rotate the security shifts. Now shut up and hold the scanner steady." Professor Nixis, wrapped in what appeared to be a modified thermal blanket with holes cut out for his eye stalks, carefully manipulated the molecular injector. The device, roughly the size of a human credit card, hummed as it prepared to introduce their special compound into the waiting wine barrels. "The compound is ready," Nixis announced, his voice trembling with either excitement or terror. "Beginning the injection process." A worker walked by, coffee mug in hand, completely ignoring the three suspicious figures huddled around the wine barrels. The human's badge identified him as Dave from accounting. "Good morning," Dave mumbled as he shuffled past, clearly operating on autopilot. "Good morning," all three aliens responded reflexively, then froze in horror. Dave continued walking, took another sip of coffee, and disappeared around the corner. Did he not see us?" Blocks asked, his crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. "Humans before their morning coffee are essentially blind," Venner explained, consulting her xenobiology notes. "We're fine. Keep working." The molecular injector beeped softly as it finished its work. According to their calculations, the compound would remain inert until the wines were opened at the summit, at which point it would combine with the alcohol to create their perfectly planned poison. "Think about it," Nixis mused as they packed up their equipment. "In just 3 days, the humans will serve these wines to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Their reputation will be ruined. Their wine exports will collapse. Their entire economy will—" Yes, we get it," Venner interrupted. "You've been practicing that speech for weeks. Let's go before—" "Hey, Dave," a voice called out from nearby. "Did you see anyone by the new shipment? The motion sensors are acting up again." "Probably just those weird aliens injecting something into the barrels," Dave's voice replied from distance. "You know how it is on Tuesday mornings." The three conspirators looked at each other in panic. "Just another Tuesday," the first voice agreed. "Want to grab breakfast?" "Can't. Got a meeting in 10. As the voices faded, Blox's crystalline form had taken on a distinctly pale hue. "We should go. Now." They made their retreat as the sun began to rise, their steps quickened by equal parts accomplishment and terror. Behind them, workers began loading the enhanced wine barrels onto transport ships bound for the Galactic Cooperation Summit. In the security office, the cameras continued recording, their footage automatically filed under Tuesday morning. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Cooperation Summit sparkled like a supernova had exploded in a glitter factory. Crystalline chandeliers floated mysteriously above the gathered dignitaries, occasionally bumping into each other with quiet tinks that made the more nervous attendees jump. The room buzzed with conversation in 47 different languages, punctuated by the occasional telepathic burst that made everyone's drinks ripple. Ambassador Thomas Chen of Earth stood near the central platform, adjusting his bow tie for the 18th time. Next to him, his assistant Miranda Rodriguez was going through their presentation notes with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb. "Remember," Miranda whispered, "the Arxians can't pronounce the letter P. The Zethari are still mad about the great coffee incident of last year, and whatever you do, don't mention the thing about the ducks." "That was one time," Thomas protested. "And how was I supposed to know they'd take it personally?" Across the room, Pax Ree and her conspirators tried their best to look innocent, which mainly involved attempting to blend in with the decorative plants. Unfortunately, Blox's crystalline form kept reflecting the chandelier light directly into the Supreme Chancellor's eyes. "Stop fidgeting," Venner hissed at him. "You're going to give us away." "I'm not fidgeting. I'm vibrating with anticipation," Blox retorted, though he did try to angle himself toward a wall. The Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Council, a being composed entirely of swirling gas held together by what claimed to be a very expensive suit, floated to the central platform. The room gradually fell silent, except for one Arxian who was still trying to order an appetizer without using the letter P. "Distinguished representatives of the galaxy," the Chancellor began, their voice somehow managing to sound both ethereal and like they needed to clear their throat. "We gather here today to celebrate another year of cooperation, trade, and only 3 minor interplanetary incidents." Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. The Zethri delegation pointedly did not look at the coffee stain still visible on their ceremonial robes. "And now," the Chancellor continued, "we have a special presentation from our friends from Earth, who have brought samples of their newest cultural export." Thomas stepped up to the platform, trying not to think about the duck incident. "Thank you, Chancellor. Today, Earth is proud to present the finest wines from our Terra Prime vineyards. Each bottle has been carefully selected to complement the unique biological makeup of each species present. Behind a massive serving station, robots began uncorking bottles with practiced precision. The conspiratorial group watched with barely contained glee as their tampered wines were poured into thousands of glasses, each one specifically designed for different anatomical requirements. "Before we begin," Thomas announced, picking up his own glass, "I propose a toast to unity, prosperity, and—" He paused dramatically, understanding. The room filled with the sound of glasses being raised by various appendages. Professor Nixis's eye stalks were practically tied in knots with anticipation. "And now," Miranda stepped forward, tablet in hand, "if you'll consult your digital menus, you'll find detailed notes about each wine's profile. For our silicon-based friends, we have a lovely vintage aged in crystal caves. For our gaseous delegates, we've prepared an aerosolized version with notes of solar wind." Pax Rhee's antennae curled with satisfaction as she watched humans take their first sips. Any moment now their plan would come to fruition. Any moment. Thomas took a long drink from his glass and smiled. "Ah, excellent. The 21-24 Cabernet. Notes of blackberry, oak, and— Is that a hint of neurotoxin?" The conspirators froze. Miranda consulted her tablet. "Yes, sir, the neurotoxin really brings out the tannins." Ambassador Chen nodded appreciatively and took another sip. "Whoever added it showed real restraint. Not too overpowering, pairs beautifully with the oak aging." Across the room, Blox's crystalline form had developed several prominent cracks. Venner's scales had cycled through so many colours, she looked like a malfunctioning disco ball. And Professor Nixis's eye stalks had somehow tied themselves into what appeared to be a perfectly executed Windsor knot. The humans continued drinking, commenting on flavour notes and bouquets as if they weren't consuming something that should have turned their nervous systems into modern art. Pax Rhee watched in mounting horror as Ambassador Chen poured himself a second glass of what should have been weapons-grade poison. Around the room, other humans were not only surviving, but actively discussing the unique chemical enhancement to their drinks. "The neurotoxin adds a lovely finish," commented a human sommelier, swirling her glass with practiced elegance. "Though I dare say it's a bit mild compared to Uncle Jerry's homebrew." Professor Nixis frantically consulted his portable scanner, his eye stalks now completely tangled. "This is impossible. The toxin levels should have— They should be— Why aren't they dead?" "Mild?" Another human chimed in. "Have you tried the Hungarian palinka? Now that's what I call a nervous system reboot." Security Chief Venner's scales had settled into a sickly shade of green. "Perhaps we miscalculated the dosage." "Oh no," Blox whispered, his crystalline form now showing hairline cracks from stress. "Look at the scanner readings. The toxin is there, it's working exactly as planned. They're just enjoying it." A young human diplomat approached their group, holding 2 glasses. "Hey there, you folks have got to try this batch. Someone added this amazing neurotoxin that really brings out the oakiness. Reminds me of that moonshine my grandmother makes in her radiator." "Your grandmother?" Pax Rhee's antennae drooped in confusion. "Makes— in her what?" "Oh yeah," the diplomat nodded enthusiastically. "Though after that incident with the copper coil and the accidental addition of paint thinner, she had to tone it down a bit. Health department got all fussy about people temporarily gaining the ability to see through time." Across the room, Ambassador Chen was now explaining to a horrified Arxian delegation how humans had discovered that certain types of snake venom could make excellent cocktail bitters. "The trick," he explained, gesturing with his glass, "is finding the right balance between paralysis and flavour profile. Too much cobra, and you can't taste anything for a week. Too little, and why even bother?" Miranda was pulling up historical records on her tablet for some curious delegates. "Here's a fascinating article about the ancient Norse and their habit of drinking something called mead out of the skulls of their enemies. Really brought out the honey notes, apparently." Professor Nixis's scanner began emitting a high-pitched whine of protest as it tried to process the human's apparent immunity. The device sparked dramatically and displayed its final message. Error. Does not compute. Suggest career change. Did you know, a passing human waiter offered helpfully, that in some parts of Earth they age wine in radioactive caves? Really adds a nice glow to the finish. Literally. Pax Re's antennae had completely wilted. But our intelligence suggested, the data indicated. Speaking of intelligence, Thomas Chen suddenly appeared beside their group, casually swirling his third glass of toxin-enhanced wine. Our cleaning droids really need an upgrade. The one in the council's third basement keeps glitching and recording random conspiracy meetings. Such a hassle. Almost as much trouble as Dave from accounting and his habit of filing interesting Tuesday morning security footage under things that made me question reality. The conspirators stared at him, various appendages and body parts twitching in unison. More wine, Thomas offered innocently, holding out a bottle. This one has an especially potent batch of neurotoxin. Goes great with the cheese plate. Though I should warn you, we had to tone down the cheese. Apparently, some species find Earth dairy products to be, quote, a violation of several intergalactic weapons treaties. Thomas Chen's smile grew wider as he pulled out his personal datapad. You know, since you all seem so interested in human beverages, I'd love to show you some of our other traditional drinks. Miranda, would you pull up the presentation about Earth's diverse alcohol culture? Miranda's answering grin could only be described as diabolical. Of course, Ambassador. Starting with the basics? Or should we jump straight to the stuff that made the Galactic Safety Commission create a new category of hazardous materials? The conspirators found themselves trapped in a growing crowd of curious delegates as a holographic display sprang to life, showing various Earth beverages. This, Thomas pointed to a clear bottle, is something we call Russian vodka. Specifically, this is homemade vodka from my friend Boris's uncle. It's technically classified as rocket fuel in 3-star systems. That can't be right, Professor Nixis protested weakly, his eye stalks now completely limp. Our scans show your wine toxin should have been fatal to any carbon-based life form. Oh, that reminds me, a human biochemist bounced forward excitedly. You simply must hear about this drink called absinthe. It was actually banned for a while because people thought it caused hallucinations. Turns out it just makes you temporarily speak in colors and taste sounds. Pax Re's antennae curled into questioning marks. Banned? You banned a drink for being too strong and yet you still make it? Banned just makes it more interesting, Miranda explained cheerfully. Have you heard about American Prohibition? Humans literally created secret underground tunnels and invented organized crime just to keep drinking. Security Chief Venner's scales had shifted to a shade of panic previously unknown to her species. But our research indicated wine was your strongest beverage. The entire human delegation burst into laughter. One elderly diplomat had to lean against a wall to stay upright. Oh, honey, a human bartender patted Venner's shoulder sympathetically. Wine is what we give to children at religious ceremonies. Wait until you hear about Everclear. It's basically just pure ethanol. Some humans use it to clean engine parts and occasionally drink it on a dare. The holographic display shifted to show various drinking traditions from Earth. The Galactic Council members watched in horror as scenes played out. Finnish people jumping from saunas into frozen lakes while drinking something called Koskenkorva. Mexican spring breakers doing something called tequila shots that appeared to involve salt and self-inflicted citrus torture, and Australian pub crawlers engaging in what seemed to be ritualistic combat while consuming something ominously named Bundaberg rum. And here's my personal favourite, Thomas continued, pointing to a suspicious-looking jar. Appalachian moonshine. The name comes from the fact it was traditionally made at night to avoid detection. Some batches are so potent they can be used as alternative fuel sources. My grandfather once powered his tractor with it during a gas shortage. Trade Minister Blocks had developed several new facets of pure terror. But the molecular structure of your nervous systems, how do you survive? Oh, that's not even the strongest stuff, the biochemist chimed in again. Has anyone told them about Chinese baijiu? Or that Korean drink that's literally fermented with snakes? Or that spirit made from fermented mare's milk that nomads drink to survive Mongolian winters? Professor Nixis's scanner, which had been attempting to reboot, finally gave up and displayed its last message: retiring to become poetry device, less stressful. And don't forget, Miranda added, pulling up another hologram, there's this delightful tradition in some parts of Vietnam where they infuse rice wine with entire cobras. Sometimes they throw in a scorpion for extra kick. Makes your neurotoxins seem rather tame in comparison. A hushed silence fell over the alien delegates as they processed this information. In that silence, they could hear a group of human diplomats at a nearby table, discussing their plans for after the banquet. There's this great little place down in the lower levels, one was saying. They serve this amazing cocktail made from distilled plasma core coolant, totally illegal in 17 systems. But man, the buzz is worth the temporary radiation poisoning. Pax Ree's antennae had tied themselves into a bow of defeat. She turned to her fellow conspirators, who looked equally shell-shocked. I believe, she said slowly, we may have made a tactical error in our choice of targets. Ambassador Thomas Chen cleared his throat, silencing the room with practiced diplomatic ease. Now, about that cleaning droid footage from the third basement, and those rather interesting security videos from what Dave from accounting calls Tuesday morning shenanigans. Pax Ree, Venner, Blocks, and Professor Nixis found themselves at the center of a rapidly widening circle as other delegates stepped away, trying to avoid association with what was clearly about to become a diplomatic incident. You know, Miranda said, consulting her tablet, attempting to poison a species' cultural exports typically falls under Section 47B of the Galactic Trade Agreement. The standard punishment involves public shame and significant economic sanctions. The Supreme Chancellor's gaseous form had condensed with concern. Ambassador Chen, surely we can handle this unfortunate situation quietly. Oh, absolutely, Thomas agreed, his smile growing wider. In fact, we have a counter-proposal, one that might benefit everyone involved. Professor Nixis's eye stalks perked up hopefully. You're not going to press charges? Better, Miranda chimed in. We're offering a trade deal. You see, Thomas continued, Earth has been looking to expand its beverage export market. And now, thanks to your little experiment, we've proven that our wines are completely safe for consumption by all known species, even with added neurotoxins. Pax Ree's antennae drooped as realization dawned. You want us to become our primary distributors in your respective sectors, yes, Thomas finished, with a special focus on our more interesting varieties. The holographic display flickered to life again, showing a new line of bottles. The labels read things like Neurotoxin Reserve, Conspiracy Blend, and Third Basement Special Edition. We're particularly proud of the Basement series, Miranda noted. Each bottle comes with a tiny cleaning droid replica. It's all about authenticity in marketing. Security Chief Venner's scales had settled into a shade of resigned acceptance. And if we refuse? Well, Thomas shrugged, there's always Section 47B. Plus, I hear the galactic media would love a story about how Earth's wine was so good. A group of conspirators tried to make it even better by adding neurotoxins. Our marketing department is already calling it the ultimate recommendation. Trade Minister Blox's crystalline form vibrated with nervous energy. You're going to turn our attempted sabotage into a marketing campaign. Turn tables on us, using our own molecular formula as a selling point, Professor Nixis added weakly. Consider it a lesson in human business practices, Thomas grinned. Now who's ready to sign some distribution contracts? Miranda has them ready. And to show there are no hard feelings, we've brought some samples of our new conspiracy collection for you to try. Miranda held up a bottle of alarmingly bright liquid. This one's infused with that neurotoxin you used, plus a hint of snake venom and a touch of radioactive mineral water. We're calling it Basement Brew. Perfect for those who enjoy a drink with a side of regrettable decision-making. As the conspirators were led away to sign their new contracts, the Supreme Chancellor turned to Thomas. You planned this all along, didn't you? Chancellor, Thomas replied with a wink, we're a species that turned deadly nightshade into a beauty treatment and made energy drinks extreme enough to require health waivers. Did you really think we wouldn't find a way to profit from an attempted poisoning? 6 months later, in a significantly better maintained room than the third basement, Ambassador Thomas Chen reviewed the latest trade reports with undisguised satisfaction. The conspiracy collection has become our top-selling line, Miranda reported, scrolling through her tablet. The Zentari Confederation can't keep third basement reserve in stock. And Professor Nixis's endorsement of our neurotoxin-enhanced wine has made it the must-have drink at scientific conferences. How are our former conspirators adapting to their new roles? Thomas asked, sipping from a glass of something that glowed slightly. Pax Re's antennae have developed a permanent twist from sampling our stronger varieties, but she's our best saleswoman. Turns out her flair for dramatic presentations works perfectly for marketing earth drinks. A holographic message popped up, showing Security Chief Venner. Her scales now shifted through pleasant pastel colors as she spoke. The latest shipment of basement brew has arrived. The neural paralysis effect is exactly as requested, though customers are asking if we can make it stronger. Humans? Professor Nixis's voice came from another hologram, his eye stalks now sporting tiny sommelier pins. My latest research paper on human alcohol tolerance has been published. The Galactic Science Academy is still debating whether to classify your species as a chemical anomaly or a biological impossibility. And the cleaning droids? Thomas asked with a knowing smile. Still recording everything, Miranda confirmed, though now they're collecting market research instead of conspiracy meetings. The one from the third basement has started its own review blog. It's surprisingly popular. The door chimed, and Dave from accounting shuffled in, coffee mug in hand. Morning, Ambassador. Just wanted to let you know the Arxians are requesting that thing you did with the snake venom and plasma coolant. Also, the Galactic Safety Commission wants to create a new classification system just for human beverages. Excellent, Thomas nodded. And how's the special project coming along? Dave grinned. The secret basement is ready. Started spreading rumors about it yesterday. Had 3 different species try to break in already. They'll find exactly what we want them to find. Perfect. Thomas turned to Miranda. How long until they try to sabotage the new ultra-premium line we left in there? Based on current patterns, Tuesday morning most likely. The security cameras are ready, and the cleaning droids are standing by. Wonderful. Thomas raised his glass, which now seemed to be eating through the table. You know what they say, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, and you've just created a new market demographic. In the not-so-secret basement, a single bottle sat innocuously on a shelf, its label reading, Humanity's Most Dangerous Drink. Next to it, a small sign warned, Absolutely do not tamper with this totally genuine super-secret formula. The cleaning droid whirred past, its recording light blinking steadily, ready for another exciting Tuesday morning.